Now let us understand a Python function. A function in a programming language is used to offload some responsibility from the main part of the program to some other part of the program. Whenever you define a function, it is stored inside the memory with a label called function name. Whenever you call that function with that function name or that label, then the program control goes from the main part of the program to that label where the function is defined, and it starts executing the function. And after the function is executed and it's finished its execution, the result is returned back again to the main part of the program from where the function is called. A simple real-world situation can help clarify the scenario. Let us assume that you have a friend called Alice who does not know how to add. But Alice got two numbers 5 and 4.5 to add. So what is Alice's option? Well, suddenly Alice remembered that Alice has one friend called Bob who knows how to add. So Alice thought that, well, let me call Bob and send those two numbers 5 and 4.5 to him. So Alice called Bob and told Bob, please add 5 and 4.5. So Alice passes those two numbers to Bob and told him what to do. Now what is happening in Bob's end? Bob got two numbers 5 and 4.5 from Alice. He knows how to add, so he calculated the result, that is 5 plus 4.5 is 9.5, stored the result in a variable, and then returned that result again to Alice. So Alice, instead of doing the job by herself, she sent it to Bob. That means offloaded some part of the job to some another person. That exactly happens in Python function also. The code in the middle of the slide is the exact representation of the real world situation that I have just explained. In order to define or create a function in Python, you have to make use of this def keyword. By using def keyword, you are telling the Python interpreter that, well, I want to create a function. This def keyword is followed by a function name. In this case, to represent this Alice and Bob situation, I called the function name Bob please add. You can have any function name of your choice. After that, inside the parenthesis, you have to pass all the parameters that you want to pass. According to our situation, we have passed two numbers n1 and n2 over here. And then in that function, so there will be a colon, and after that it is you have to implement that function. That is what happened in Bob's part. So we have calculated n1 plus n2, these two numbers, and then stored it in result, and finally we have returned the result to Bob. And here is the function call, that is the Alice's part. So Alice actually just called Bob please add, that is the function name over here, and then inside the parenthesis she passed those two numbers, the actual numbers, not n1 and n2. So what will happen is n1 will be replaced by 5 and 4.5 will replace n2. So in Bob's part, or inside the function, it will add 5 and 4.5 and return the result 9.5 to Alice. Now let us see an hands-on example in the Google Colab notebook. So here in this part, you can see the exact similar situation written as a Python code. So always but the only difference is here, instead of using Bob please add name, I have used add two numbers just to fit in the programming context to give some meaningful name. So here, as you can see, function is a two-step process. First, in the step 1, you have to create a function, and step 2, you have to call the function to execute it. Remember, so far you do not call the function, it does not execute it. Whenever you are defining this def followed by the function name followed by all the parameters inside opening and closing parenthesis followed by a colon and followed by a colon, and then all the function body and the return. Whenever you are finished doing this entire part, this is called function definition. As a matter of fact, def stands for function definition. So whenever you are done with this part is just saved in the memory. It does not execute. It will only execute when you call this function like this in here. Now, after calling this function, the returned result can be stored in another variable, as you can find in here. Here the add two numbers will return 9.5 and it will store the result 9.5 in here. And here in this print this print statement, it is printing this returned result. So in summary, let us have another glance what is happening once again, just for clarity. Here there is a function called add two numbers, which is accepting two different parameters, n1 and n2. Inside the function, you are calculating the result and then you are returning the result. And here you are calling the function with the actual arguments 5 and 4.5. So 5 will replace n1 and 4.5 will replace n2. So the result will be 5 plus 4.5, that is 9.5, and the return result will be 9.5. This returned result, that is 9.5, will be stored inside this returned result variable, and that I am printing over here. So as it is expected that this print statement should print 9.5. Hope you have understood it. So let us run this program and let us see whether it is printing 9.5 or not. So as you can see, this code segment printed 9.5. So that is about function. However, there are some subtle details I would like to let you know about function. The first thing is a function can have any number of parameters, and it may not have any parameters also. The second one, a Python function can return any number of results at the same time, and also it may not return any result. This is a little bit different from C++ or Java if you are coming from that background. In C++ or Java, you cannot return multiple results at the same time. But in Python, you can return multiple results at the same time. The third thing is when a function is called, the values of the arguments replaces the parameters in the function in order. That is, argument 1 replaces the parameter 1, argument 2 replaces the parameter 2 in this example. So, and I believe that you got the idea in the function example also, such as this 5 is our argument 1 over here, it replaced n1. 4.5 is our argument 2 and it replaced n2. Like that. And the final thing that I would like to let you know that a function can be written anywhere in the code. it can stay in this block. You can write it in the middle of the code, or you can move this piece of code anywhere anywhere you want. So here is a function with no parameter or no return with only with no return, basically. Sorry for the typo. So this is a function with no return value. So here this function name is print message. It takes one argument called the message text, or you can call it message content or whatever, and then it is simply printing the message over here. And then I have written a return statement, but when the function is not returning anything, you do not need to write return statement. However, from the programming perspective, it is a good practice to write the return statement even when nothing is returning actually. So you can just write return and that's it. And the rest of the steps are same. Here again the step 2 is call the function, that is call the function by its name, that is print message, and then pass the actual argument or the actual text that you want to print. So what will happen now after the function call, this welcome to UAF, this text will replace this MSG text variable and then print it over here. And as soon as it will encounter the return statement or hit the end of the function, the control will back to this print message. Now here, this function is not returning anything, so you cannot store it in a variable. So it is just a function with no return value. So let us run this function. As expected, this function will print the message txt, which is now welcome to UAF. So let us see whether it is printing that or not. So as you can see, it printed welcome to UAF. Now the last piece of function, a function, or let's call it specifically a Python function, can return multiple values. This is a little different from C++ or Java. In C++ or Java, you cannot return multiple values like this. You have to employ different type of process. But in Python, everything is easy because Python is made like so that it is easily readable and it becomes simple to code. So here is a function. And again, here also it is a two-step process like before. The first step is creating a function and step 2 is calling the function. So here the function name is do arithmetic on two numbers, and it is taking n1 and n2, two parameters. And then it does some of the basic arithmetic operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And it stores the result in the corresponding variables called resAdd, which is the short form of result add, then resSub, which is the short form of result subtraction, then resMul, which means the result multiplication, and resDiv means result division. And finally, in the return statement, it returned all the results, as you can see here. And to return multiple results, you have to write all of them inside a parenthesis. So here it is result add, resSub, resMul, resDiv. All these results are returning. And here, when you call this function, that is do arithmetic on two numbers, this function call, and you pass these two numbers, let's say 4 and 2, you can pass any number over here, but anyway, when you pass it, you will get back all the 4 results, right? So now I want to store all the results in a separate variable. In order to do that, I can use this syntax. Inside an opening and closing parenthesis, I just added like 4 different variables. Everything is separated by a comma. The first variable is returned result add. which is in short form it is written like rate race add, and the second one is rate race sub, the third one is rate race mul, and fourth one is rate race div. So each of these variable will store all the results of returned by the function in order. So now I just printed all these numbers. So as it is expected, rate race add is storing the result of the addition. So 4 plus 2. So n1 is now 4 after calling the function, and n2 is 2, which is coming from here. And then, so the result addition is 4 plus 2 is 6. So rate race add is also 6. 4 minus 2 is 2, so it is stored in race sub, and now it is stored after calling the function. It will be stored in rate race sub, so it should be 2, and it is 2 here. Similarly, the multiplication means rate race mul is storing 4 times 2, which is 8, and after returning it will store the result inside this rate race mul, and it will print 8 over here. And the final one is the division. It is the similarly it is calculated. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and it is stored in race div, and after returning it is stored in rate race div, and so when you are printing it you are getting 2.0. So that's all about the Python function, and this is the concluding part of this course.